next conversation because we're joined by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of roads, railways, ports, airspace, airports, what else? Bridges, all those things. The Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, and good to see you after a very long time. And the last time I was here is more than a year ago.
Yeah.
And the last time I did a media interview has been very long. So I'm very happy to be here to not just to engage you, but to engage the people of Kenya.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
How did you get in, Mheshimiwa? From our front gate, right?
Yes.
You saw what?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah?
That's a very good question. I understood your question, and I was very happy to see the works that are ongoing in terms of rehabilitation of this the road below the expressway. You remember the last time the people of Kenya wanted to know what I'm going to do insofar as this road is concerned. We awarded a contract which is still running until end of next year. Yes, end of next year, because it was 1 year, 6 months kind of a contract. And then I'm very happy for the progress that has been made in terms of the road itself, but the drainage needs to be dealt with, and you can see the drainage works are ongoing. That's why access to your building is a challenge. But that drainage works, actually, you will be surprised. It has something to do with the airport, and I know everybody has been talking about the airport, partly because of how this construction was done and how the drainage was done. We have a problem of flooding at JKIA. So when we discovered that during the El Nino process, we have also asked Kenya to work together with JKIA, because JKIA itself, part of its land is a natural water causeway. So we want to make sure that beside draining it along the road, we provide a proper drainage through the JKIA itself. Because, water, interestingly, you can't resist, even if you try to divert, even if someone sells you land and it was it's
wetland.
It's wetland, or it is a course for seasonal rivers. Unfortunately, it just happens that there will be a point in time that the water will have to come through there. So at JKIA, we want also to expand. You remember the committee that I established? They proposed that we have to create proper drainage through the airport itself, because the more we resist
through the airport to where?
Across to the other side of the airport, to the drains along the river up to what do you call the river on the other side? Athi River, yes. Particularly, I have a particular spot I was going to, the other side. It's Athi River, but at a
certain stream.
Stream, not down here. You remember the place where there is a lot of sewage? Ruai, yes, exactly. Thank you. So it has to go all the way to the side of Ruai. The committee proposed that we need to set aside resources to make sure that the drainage through the airport is clearer, to make sure that there will be no stagnation of water within the airport. So the works that you've seen in Mombasa Road are ongoing. The contractors, because there are two contractors, are on schedule. They still have the time, and they started with the most critical part of it, which was the road itself. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. When during construction, you must be glad, Eric, that at least there is money to construct. We allocated money to construct this road. At the time when we have a big challenge in terms of resource allocation to the Ministry of Roads, particularly construction, if it were not for the fact that this is rehabilitation, if it was fresh construction, we would not be able, what we call development funds, we would not be able to do what you can see here. But because part of the rehabilitation process, and therefore some resources were set aside from the road maintenance levy, Kenya were able then to allocate resources to do it. Remember, initially, this road we were told before I came to office that we were supposed to spend about 9 billion to redo the road below. I instructed Kenya to relook at it in a manner that we can achieve modest rehabilitation without really using the resources that we have, because the resources are very little. That's why we allocate about 3 billion shillings to do both the drainage and to do the road.
And to the road itself.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, did you ask the question why those things did not happen before you go to office?
Before to go to office?
Yes, because the expressway was constructed.
Yes.
Part of the plan was, as you construct the expressway, you shall deal with the lower road.
Correct.
By the time you finish the expressway, you also finish the lower road. You're getting to office, Lower Road was not done.
And
did you ask the question why?
Yes, I was told, the answer I was given is that the utilities that were being relocated from below, that is electricity, fiber optic, all the water utilities, some of them took far too long for us to relocate them. Remember that our road corridor in terms of utilities, in the past
everybody used to put their own electricity is doing their thing, water is doing their thing. So now we've provided one duct that can carry all those utilities. In fact, let me tell you, part of the problems we're still facing by these contractors who are now on site is the fact that the utilities are yet to be relocated and they are busy. They have to work with Kenya Power to relocate power to proper duct that they are providing themselves. The other thing I'm told is that the responsibility was not transferred to the contractor. It was that our contribution as the state, we took over the responsibility of taking care of all these utilities because our contribution to the construction of the road was you provide the land and also move the utilities from the road. That way, the contractor did not have an obligation to rehabilitate the road below. In fact, when we wanted to do initially, the plan that we found in place was for the contractor to do the rehabilitation and be paid the 9 billion. So we said we need to do competitive bidding. And as a result of the competitive bidding, even though we allocated 3 billion as a budget, the one contractor bid 1.1, the other 1.6. So we saved about 300 million shillings. Yes, 300 million shillings from the 3 billion that were allocated because of the competitive.
Was there a change in specifications?
Yes, we had to reduce, of course, the specifications from the 9 billion expected because the 9 billion had elaborate structures of decoration, beautification, which is important in an urban road, but we have to live within our own means. We had to make sure that the specification we give are good enough to carry out the responsibility that we need to have a good road without also the elaborate processes of beautification.
Okay. Waziri, even as we talk about these things, I think you'll have many conversations around these specifications that you're giving, and this is just Mombasa Road. But it doesn't matter where we look, you will find a project that started at whatever, and it's gotten to whatever level and has not been completed.
Absolutely.
And so the question is, what is happening with that? You're in the unfortunate position whereby you came in and some of these things had already happened.
Yes.
Again, unfortunate, but it still now is on your shoulders. Enterprise Road, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
Certain parts of Ngong Road, we don't know when those will be finished.
Yeah.
This road that's heading out, Athi River, heading out in this direction, it's been 15 years easily. Every place in the country has an example of things that have started and didn't finish.
Yes.
Unfinished works is a big deal. So unfinished works in terms of what needs to happen, and then even new projects that are being commissioned. Is there a conversation that is being had about completion of projects before we start being ambitious in new projects?
I truly appreciate your question, but you're making it light.
Shall I make it heavier? Because it can get heavier.
The situation is worse than you are painting. I'll give you the statistics. We have about roads that are pending that are worth 700 billion shillings. That is a portfolio of the infrastructure that is pending. You've heard the story of, and every county has a road that is pending. Every county, except started but not completed. So those are pending projects that have been pending from the most recent one is from 2021. But some have been pending from 2014, 2015. I can name roads. If you go a road in Tarakanidi, it's called Chakarika Marimanti. If you go to a road in Nandi, that is called Kopere Timbaroa, or the one that is in a county like Kakamega that has been pending in Shinyalu from 2016.
There's one in Loitoktok, Ilasi to Taveta.
The Ilasi Taveta is not pending because the process of procurement had not been complete, and I'll come back to that. I'll tell you what had happened to Ilasit and Njukini. But all these roads, including the one that is in Ngong going to Suswa, has been pending now for about 3 or 4 years. What happened is that sometime in 2013, when we came in as Jubilee administration, we had an ambitious project of road 10,000, delivering 10,000 kilometers of roads across the country.
Yes.
In that process, many models of construction were established. One of them is what they call low-volume seal projects, where you just construct the road to a certain level and then put a thin layer of a tarmac road, of a tarmac on top of it. And most of these low-volume seal projects were to make us deliver better. And then thereafter, there were other normally constructed roads, especially highways. And then in 2017, post-2017, we established a number of other roads, including what's called Mau Mau Road. Mau Mau roads in the Mount Kenya counties. All these projects were done in the hope that the government of Kenya was going to continue accessing credit the way they did. Remember, in 2016, we were able to access Eurobond easily, budget support from Chinese government, various loans to do various roads. So it was done with the possibility of either borrowing internationally or from the market locally. And then things started going south from 2018, 2019. Then, we were not able to access capital. Pressure for the debt came in, and then, but political pressure was also within the former president to continue allocating certain projects. So certain projects were still allocated and awarded. Now, the problem is that every year from 2015, our financial needs for development project have been 150 billion, but every year we've been allocating 50 billion from the budget. The only possible achieve, and sometimes through supplementary reduce it to below 50 billion. So when we came to office, we realized that we have 150 billion of certificates of works already done that has not been paid. In the last 1 year, you will be shocked. We've only been able to pay, of this 50 billion, we've been 150 billion, we have been able to pay about 30 billion. But even now, if we pay the 30 billion, again, the prices increase. Because of what? You pay a contractor, he continues 2 or 3 kilometers. Then makes the next certificate. So now we are back again to 155, 156 billion. But that's not enough. There is now uncalculated claims that have already been made of idle equipment, of, all kind of things. There are contractors that have gone to court, and won. There's one particular contractor that I'm dealing with, and I really hope that as an officer of the court, I have to be very careful what I say about the judiciary. But for a court of law to award a contractor 10 billion shillings, on a contract that was 2 billion, even if we failed as a road agency to pay them, and they had idle equipment, they are all interest, and they had borrowed from the bank, then Duplam rule in the bank says that even if you borrow a loan, you can only pay twice, which is about 4 billion. There's one particular contractor I don't want to mention. He has a number of awards. He even wanted to commit to civil jail the DG of Kenya. He's been awarded 10 billion. I feel very sad that such a decision was made. Of course, we are appealing and we're going through the process. But the point I'm trying to make is that this year, the budget that we put in place was 61 billion for development. In the supplementary budget that we just passed, we reduced it to 46 billion. Against the pending bill of 150. In that, disbursements that have been done this year, this financial year, is 6 billion. So we are still waiting as a ministry about 40 billion to pay some contractors for them to go to site. The situation we are in as a country is not that one that we manufactured or we created. It's an economic situation. It is a situation that deals with, when we talk about the debt is a burden for all of us, you feel it in the road sector. What is the decision that we made? Collectively in the cabinet, we agreed that the first priority for government now is to pay the Eurobond. We first pay the Eurobond. So how do we achieve that? We needed to give our budget to become, we needed fiscal discipline, and the budget therefore must be able to support itself. That is why our road sector has been allocated for development only for 6 billion. As a result of the same, now I had to do something. We had to do something. We had to think outside the box. In December last year, we started a process of engaging our development partners. China government, Chinese contractors, out of the 700 billion worth of roads, Chinese contractors are carrying out up to 400 billion worth of the roads, 400 and something billion of the worth of the roads. And we said, can we have a conversation with the China government and ask them, is there a possibility for us to work together to find a financial solution to support these contractors so that they complete the roads, and as a government of Kenya, we can be able to pay as a loan as we progress. That discussion gave me an opportunity perhaps to be the cabinet secretary or a minister, even in the continent, to visit China 3 times. And for that kind of negotiation, the Minister of Treasury and ourselves have been there so many times. And finally, we went with the president and we met President Xi Jinping. And thanks to the very effort of President William Ruto, talking to guiding us, guiding the process, we now are in a position where we are almost agreeing on a facility to be able to support us. So that facility, of course, has to meet the requirements and the processes of the Chinese administration.
Which are?
And I mean, I'm saying, what type of projects are they going to finance? What feasibility study and so forth.
But is already started projects?
Projects have already begun.
You don't need a new feasibility study.
No,
it's to complete
they have to come and confirm, because it's not enough for us to just make an application and say these roads. First, they have to confirm. Second, they cannot finance roads that are 80-90% complete. They want to see that those are projects that are basically at the commencement stage, so that it can fit it, because it's a new idea we are proposing. It must fit their way or existing structures of financing. So without saying too much, I told Parliament recently when they called me last week that because of that effort and because of the good name of our president, the diplomatic relations that the president has built, and our efforts in the ministry, and consistently having conversations with our friends, we think that in less than 2 or 3 months, we should be able to close in on a facility that should make up to 60-70% of our contractors to go on site. And if that is the case, because I believe it's going to be, and that's the hope we are holding on to, without appearing to speak like a preacher, the resources now that have been allocated in the budget of locally raised resources can now support our local contractors, their bid, because theirs is about 30 to 40, no, on the pending. The other 300 ultimately when we finish the roads, but at the moment of the 150 billion,
to clear the pending bills.
About of the 150 billion, 40 billion or so is supposed to go to it's supposed to go to compensation, land compensation for us to complete the road. About of the 100, about 60 something goes to the foreign contractors. 30 something billion goes to our local contractors.
You're saying, Weshimua, that this is not necessarily a problem of our making. It's economic factors.
Yes.
But then, when a government progressively goes to Parliament and says, we are starting a new project in the next financial year, we are starting another new project in the next financial year, it gets to a tune of close to 1 trillion shillings of ongoing road projects across the country without a clear vision on where the money is going to come from. Is that not irresponsibility from everybody? The people who are advising the government, and that's the engineers in your ministry, to the people who are in your ministry who then advise the cabinet, to Parliament.
I think there is a collective failure. I agree with you, because in terms of procurement, this was, first of all, let me say this. When we arrived, it was 900 billion. So we did away with some of the projects that had not started. There's some level of commitment but has not started. We have also refused now to progress PPP projects that has a component of burden to the government taxpayer. We want projects that look like the expressway, because the contractor in the expressway and the developer took full responsibility without any financial guarantee from the government. Now, we reduced all of them. It came to about 700. Now, from the 700, you sit down and ask yourself the question that how did we manage to do procurement without the procurement law says that you must have the resources for the project before you procure.
Yes.
So, there is a competition between
the political promise of a government that had promised 10,000 kilometers, okay? The pressure from the wananchi, and at the same time, the resources.
Kilometers.
So I think they progressed in the hope, that they will raise the resources and things will go the way that had gone before.
They broke the law to meet.
They didn't break the law though, because they provide. You can't break the law if you provide a budget from Parliament. When you've already provided a budget for the road and you say this road will be financed in 3 years, but in the first 1 year we are putting 200 million or 500 million, you have not broken the law. But where you are sitting as a government, where you're sitting as government, you know, or you ought to have known that the forecast into the future is going to be a challenge. That is why when we came to office, we became realistic. We said we will not commence any new project unless that project is based on a development partner, say World Bank, African Development Bank, or our African Development Bank, World Bank, and other development partners who are willing to finance that project to the end. Some of the projects we've started in this administration are only those that the negotiations were ongoing towards financing by development partners. We are unable to start new projects that are coming from our budget. Okay. And so we had to say first of all, reduce. We reduced to 700 billion. Then we moved to the next stage. Stop. Don't continue.
How do we avoid this in the future?
Eric, I've told the president this and I've told my colleagues in the cabinet. I am likely to be a very unpopular cabinet secretary if the people of Kenya do not appreciate that the resources are not there for us to do the roads. People keep telling me, we don't want you to talk to us. Our road has stalled from 2016, 2017. Yes. We want to see the road progressing. And in fact, you must have followed the very hot debate we had with members of parliament, most of whom are in rallies, in funerals, and other places have castigated me for refusing to allocate resources to their roads. And I went back to them and asked them, where in the constitution does it say that the cabinet secretary allocate the roads? It is this house, it's parliament that allocates the resources. And ask them, can we go through the budget? How much have you allocated to roads for 6 billion? How much have been disbursed? Eventually, when we left there, we had a consensus. All of them had a consensus and told me that we hope the efforts you are putting and the government of Kenya, led by the president, from our support from our friends, can be able to bear fruits because we are staring at ghost projects in our villages and rural areas. And the same feeling I have.
Currently, that is what we have. I mean, when you talk about $1 trillion shillings worth of projects started, approved by Parliament, with some budget appropriated. If you're a Parliament and you appropriate money for 5 kilometers of a 20-kilometer road this year, and you expect that you're going to allocate another 5 kilometers next year,
until you finish in 3-4 years,
and you don't allocate in the next financial year, aren't you just being crazy?
That is why
if you are a road engineer, head of a roads agency, and you know that this is what has come, and then you bring in a new project in the next financial year for another project, for another road, knowing full well that the previous road that you started has not been allocated project, are you as an engineer, head of a roads agency, not crazy?
The engineers are totally not to blame. Our engineers and our ministry have a responsibility to design all our roads in readiness for resources when it is achieved. And as a ministry, including myself, I am more excited if I go to Parliament and tell them, I have this number of roads. Should you find resources, please budget for it. Once I present the roads, I always get back with a lot of disappointment that we don't have money to do this. But I cannot stop presenting these roads because just in case the resources are found, that then the roads will be allocated money. Now,
I call BS.
Just wait.
I call BS. Mwaziri. Before budget goes to Parliament, Cabinet discusses budget.
Absolutely.
The minister in charge of transport sits in that and presents his ministry's budget to Cabinet.
Correct.
Why would you, as a minister, knowing that I have 10 pending roads, and this is the only amount of money that's available in the next year's budget, why would you go to Cabinet and push for another road that you know there's no money for?
No, you can still go to the Cabinet, Eric. You know, Cabinet or budgeting process are competition for resources. You can't go there as a Minister of Roads and Transport, folding your hands and saying, I have sacrificed. We just wait. You say, I have sacrificed roads. You guys allocate that money to education.
But not so.
First, I'm just saying, you go with a wish.
You're saying I have 10 ongoing roads.
That's right.
Please give me money to complete
Absolutely.
my ongoing roads.
No, I agree with you. I'll come to that. But I'm saying you usually go with a basket of requests, but you must put your priorities right. You must say that you must complete what you have first before you start a new one. That's why when this administration came to office, you remember we announced openly that we are not going to start new projects. Okay. We are only going to deal with all the projects to complete the existing projects. And if we are lucky as an administration to complete the existing legal projects, the transformation in the country will be immense.
Can we look at it?
Immense. So let me just complete the question you asked.
Okay.
So therefore, I fear saying that here, because I have received enough bashing when I say this is inherited problems. And when I say inherited problems, I am not saying I'm blaming C.S. Macharia or whoever was the President Uhuru. It's a fact. A government is a going concern. Okay? Even us who are in office now will push this agenda that we have. At the end of this administration, we will hand over to another administration. They will have to come and deal with problems that we leave behind and finish the projects that we deal with. So no matter what was the reason why we are in the situation we are in, I can't tell the people of Kenya, since it was started by other administration, therefore it's not my problem and I'm not going to do nothing about it. We have worked very hard to do something about it. And as I told you, holding on to this hope and faith that in 2-3 months our conversations with our friends bears fruit, we should be able in 2024, this coming year, from March, April there, to return as many contractors back to site as possible. This is to complete these projects. And I say this, Eric, even the next 4, even if it is by 2027, we complete these projects, we will have achieved immense transformation for our nation. Let me give you an example of what I now do in the office. The first thing I do in the office, what we did, as I told you, is reduce the portfolio from 900 billion to 700. Remove non-performing or non-committed or unstarted projects. In the 700 that we have at the moment, I have to engage with our contractors. In fact, I even have consultation with the banks. My friend, and I say this with utmost respect, many of the contractors come to my office crying, tears. Because either the banks are selling their houses, or some even have been admitted to hospitals. People are suffering. But what we have to do is to call the banks and tell them, please be patient. We're waiting for these resources. We are going to pay you. We even negotiate with the banks. We are going to pay you from the amount we get, because we have to distribute across the contractors. We'll pay you 20 million. Please don't harass this contractor. I'll pay you this much. And I want to appreciate a number of our local banks who have been supportive in this endeavor. Number 2, I have also had to have one-on-one conversation and consultation with contractors. I give you an example of Thika Magumu Road. Thika Magumu Road had been stalling for 3 years. We were told to terminate the contract, and my people in Kenya process came to the PS, came to me now to approve a termination of the contract. You just see a termination and we advertise. But I called the contractor and I told him, my friend, if I terminate your contract, you are a foreign contractor and you have other contracts that are about development partners, it's going to be a reputational risk on you. Can you do something about it? And because of just that kind of conversation, we delivered 30 kilometers of the road from Thika going to Magumu of the 56. So it has become now, I am sitting down to negotiate land-related issues, telling the contractors or the locals, we will pay you. National Land Commission, we commit as government to pay you when we get the money, allow the contractor to progress because development partners put money into these roads. So it's become now, when we get even 5 kilometers of a road to progress, we say hallelujah because of the challenges that we go through. But it is not that gloomy, as I said. At least for the 1 year of in the road sector, we've been able to work with those development partners. Number 2, on the maintenance side, I need to distinguish the two. On the maintenance side, we have ring-fenced resources under what is called road maintenance levy.
Yeah.
That is why you see Mombasa Road is ongoing. That's why you see what we've done with the road maintenance levy resources in the urban areas, towns like Embu before Madaraka Day, Kericho that we did, places like Mandera, we've delivered some roads. By the way, interestingly, under Kura, we've delivered 234 kilometers of roads across the country, thanks to innovatively use of the road maintenance levy to improve the state of the road from graveling to tarmac, what is called stage improvement, because of the process that we had to innovatively apply road maintenance levy to save the roads in urban areas. And thankfully, working with the Kura, we have done a bit of work to make sure that we support our urban roads. Now
that you've mentioned the road maintenance levy, I've got to throw in this question.
Yes.
Your colleagues in leadership, the leader of majority in National Assembly and Senate, sat in this committee, the NADCO, which has come up with a recommendation to reduce the road maintenance levy. Do you support that?
I absolutely oppose it vehemently.
Right.
I opposed it on the floor of the House recently when they called me. And I don't think any member of National Assembly, it doesn't matter whether it is Kimani Ichung'wah or Opiyo Wandayi or especially National Assembly, because they are a place where they do appropriation of finance, and of course Aaron in the Senate and Matsayo. None of them can support a reduction of road maintenance levy. And I made the case in Parliament recently that the road maintenance levy, the figure that we have of 18 shillings per litre now, was put in place in 2016. At that point in time, the prices of petrol per litre was 90 shillings. Now the price is 210, and we are still putting aside 18 shillings. The cost of construction of roads have gone high. The road network has become enhanced. In fact, I made the case in Parliament that at the moment we are staring a very serious crisis. In 2013, we established in the road 10,000, we were managed to deliver 5,000 kilometers of roads under KERA. And under KERA, the resources that are given under road maintenance levy, KERA is given 22% and 10%, which is 32% of the resources. All of these 32% of resources is divided equally in every constituency. In this year, every constituency is getting 64 million shillings across the country. And most of these resources, 64 million, is used to maintain Maram roads.
Yes.
No, because our members of National Assembly have a role in the maintenance of these Maram roads, thanks to the constituency roads committees that play a role in this process. In fact, there was a day we attempted to ask them to maintain the tarmac roads. They refused. Now, you have 5,000 kilometers of roads that have been constructed but not being maintained. What does that mean? These are orphaned roads. If you travel across the country, you will find that particularly those that were delivered using low volume seal, you will find that they are full of potholes. Yeah, because there is no maintenance plan. Now, I have told members of Parliament, I request the Speaker that early next year, we must have a honest conversation on how fast the resources are going to be raised. Are we going to continue with the RMLF 18 shillings per litre, despite the fact that the cost of construction have gone high and the cost of fuel is higher? Is it going to be feasible? Already, Kenya, which receives 40% of the resources, and they have something called performance-based contract and management, which you give a contractor to take care of a road for 2-3 years, is now again strained because Kenya network has gone higher and the resources have not increased.
You've answered
so
it.
the simple fact is that that discussion that happened in NADCO was unfortunate because to the contrary, they should be adding 5 shillings, not reducing 5 shillings.
So there are other issues that are going on, all right? The roads one is a big one. It would be interesting for us to see what happens in March 2024 because that's the date that you've now given.
Yes.
All right. A month ago, there was a blackout at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, rather around the country.
Yes.
And because of that, we then saw that there were huge issues at the airport. The generators did not kick in.
Yes.
Then we saw you then the next morning come a man lost his job, another one was transferred because for some reason you felt as though they were not doing what they ought to have done. And you said that such a situation would never occur at JKIA again.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, the same situation occurred and the generators did not kick in. And I remember asking my colleagues the night before, who is he going to sack tomorrow? You didn't sack anyone the next day.
There was no one to sack.
There was no one left to sack, all right. But you came in and said that you wanted the DCI to come and investigate because perhaps there was an issue of sabotage. And or some spirit living in the airport. We do not know. But the question is, really, Waziri, what on earth is going on? Because it doesn't look good, first of all, but in terms of operations at the airport and the solutions which you seem to be offering just don't seem to be working. So what's happening?
Thank you very much. I have, as a result of what's happening at the airport, my friends have suggested to me that I need to get my mattress. And in the evening, I go sleep next to the generator until the next morning.
In fact, a senator mentioned, what's so difficult?
I saw somebody saying that a generator is something you just plug in and plug out. Let me say this first of all. The problems we see at the airport are systemic of poor investment that we didn't put in place for many years. Our airport has suffered immense neglect. When 2013, when we came to office again under Jubilee administration, I say we because I was part of that administration. Soon thereafter, I think end of 2013, there was a fire that burned the part of the airport. And so a lot of concentration went to restoring the airport. And a great job was done by President Uhuru's administration to bring back an airport in a very short time. You know, it wasn't an easy thing to do. And then, of course, a reconstruction was done. You have a tent that is there to, you know, and then the Terminal 1A was reconstructed and so forth. As a result of the same, a lot of attention went to that direction, restoring the airport to be in the situation it is. What I still want to understand is that there is a problem when it comes to human resource at the airport. There is a feeling that, many people there many people of certain stage don't want to work at the airport. When we came to office, of the deputies, the GMs at the airport, of the 11 GMs, 5 were acting. Okay, and most of them would have advanced the age. When you go with the department that's called engineering, that is critical for these generators issues. You have very thin support in terms of the staff below it. When I arrived, there was frequent blackouts, and now I see many people don't want to remember that the frequent blackouts in Eldoret Airport, and the planes were not taking off sometimes because runway lights. Forget about this blackout in JKIA, which was only at the terminal itself. Runway lights were failing in Eldoret. So, and then we had all these maintenance problems across the country. So the first thing I did was to tell the KA first we appointed a new board. And the new board, we told them to look at the human resource and see that nobody will be acting at critical position. You have an acting procurement, you have an acting legal, you have an acting engineering, and you have another acting person there, I think, strategy or something. Now you have people acting all over the airport. No, you have acting security because the term had ended. And these are critical positions at the airport. Then you look at critically below them, there is a problem. So the first thing the board did, understand the problem. Number 2, advertise. They advertised for various positions, at the airport. And as a result of that advertisement, the process of getting experts to come in has been ongoing. Already we are done with procurement. We are done with finance. Yes, the other position was finance, which was acting. We are now interviewing next week engineering, the department that the gentleman who offered to leave at that point in time had left. When I had a candid discussion with the former MD, he told me that the sabotage in the institution was too much, that he was unable to continue dealing with the problems they had with human resource administration across the place. He was just
Who was sabotaging him?
And what kind of sabotage are we talking about? I'm sorry, I have to interject to ask this question. Because here we are saying that there was and I just wanted, if I can simplify it just a little bit, there was a power blackout.
No, I'll come to the power blackout. I just wanted to tell you the state. I want to tell you the state of issues structurally, you know. Okay. So the MD had been there. His term was coming to an end. And he told me to be able to wade through. He was very kind. I will not be able to say everything because he spoke to me in confidence that, you know, the whole place, there were a number of people who are not doing their job. People are not pulling their weight. Okay. People are not willing to do their job. In fact, he was not getting support from interagencies, different agencies within the airport and so forth. So what I did, I told him, what can we do? He told me he has no problem if he can take an early exit from the position. And I thought that was a good opportunity for us now to fill in. So the gentleman which was in charge of engineering and the one in charge of airport did an early exit. When I went and asked, because we looked at each other with the MD and asked him, these generators have been here for 2 years, procured 2 years ago. How come cannot be installed? I was told, you know, it was procured by a company which was a sole proprietorship. The sole proprietor died, blah, 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 blah. We could not install all those kind of reasons that you're given. So when he left now, we started the process of installing the generators. Okay. Yeah, 2 generators. We installed the generators. I was given an assurance that it had been synchronized. You know what it means to. I know we are all not engineers, but that the synchronization process had been done for automatic
switch over.
When switch over as soon as the electricity goes off.
Yes.
And in the first, that was August. A month ago, we had a blackout. Yeah, and during that blackout, the generator did not kick in. Okay. The explanation I was given is that the synchronization was not successful, and that the process. Remember, Eric, I see some people, and it is very, it's very disheartening, by the way, to see some people out there behaving like they know what generator we are talking about.
You pull the thing
they think that you just go and switch it. You know, people just propagate their ignorance out there. There's a whole. That's why you need an electrical engineer at a very high level to work on this process. Is because there is a process that goes through what load of power comes to the generator.
Yes.
Can the generator be able to carry that burden and all and so forth and so forth. Anyway, the electricity kicked in within 20 minutes. Remember, the August one took about 2 hours.
Yeah. Yes.
This one took 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Then they said they sorted. The technical committee of the board went in. They tested the whole week and all that and so forth and so forth. This time round, it took another almost 30 minutes. But although not fully dark, it would come in, go off.
How long should it take?
It should take at most 1 minute.
Exactly.
Or 5. You know, they say between a good one should take about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Now, for the good of the country also, because the story has been propagated that there was a blackout everywhere. The problem we're having at JKI is Terminal 1A and Terminal 1E. The runway, the control tower, and the Terminal 1B, the terminal these are the terminals within the airport were not affected. So the question you ask yourself, why are the other terminals working and this one did not? It's because they have dedicated generators to those particular terminals. There is what we call primary generator, which is the first one to kick in, and there's a secondary generator. Now, the primary generators are dedicated to those two terminals. So we had to have a honest conversation recently. And a number of information that was trickling in is that people think that, one, the generators are not of the capacity that was promised to be. Yeah, on the face of it, it's like you buy a car.
Do they meet the specifications?
Yes, exactly. That they may not meet the specs. Number two, that the technicians who are manning the generators are not trained to support to do the switching. Like our friend thought, he thinks that it's a switch that is done like this. There's a knowledge that goes to it. Number three is that we think also that the synchronization process was not done the way it was done. So our testing is ongoing by experts that have come from Kenyans, KPLC, and the report will be completed today. Why it was important to involve the DCI is because also some people suspected that these 3 failures were deliberate. You know, it was not as a result
of not knowing, but it's deliberate. Why? Something is because we are carrying out massive changes in the airport itself. We are replacing a number of staff. Some people are unhappy that the changes are happening for whatever reasons. So to avoid gossip and bad blood and all that, I thought professionally, let's do it with an institution that can carry out criminal investigation. I expect the results to be either that there was sabotage or there was none. And even if there was none, what are the systemic problems we are dealing with? That is why KPLC and Kenyans are giving us parallel support of investigation of this process. What else have we done? We have said, based on ICAO recommendations, even though the lights at the runway and the lights at the control tower did not go off, we want to do even further protection. So we allowed the KA to quickly procure UPSs that will also support, just have another layer of backup. Number two, we've told the KA now, forget about this thing of this generator working or not working. Buy 2 other generators that are going to be dedicated to those 2 terminals.
Where does maintenance come in all of this? Because maintenance
I'll come to that.
Important.
Now, the procurement department then the engineering department that I said we'll have the GM next week, the interviews, and will come in. We now want them, when they come in, to give us, because it is lacking, a maintenance policy that is continuous, including if we need an external support like we do in the roads, a performance-based contract to those who will maintain those assets. Now, you need to ask yourself, Eric, why does a cabinet secretary have to be the one to answer questions of a generator?
It is being questioned.
No, that's what I'm saying. Wait, no, not just being questioned. Why does it take a cabinet secretary? You know, the layer of an agency has the person, the technician who is there. He has a supervisor. He's a supervisor. He has a manager. He has a general manager. He has an MD. He has
board.
A chairman. There's a board, a chairman of the board, a PS, and then CS.
Yes.
It should tell you the truth that for a very long time, this is why that agency and not the other agencies is because for a long time this place had been abandoned. The staff had been demoralized. The people have been acting for too long. This human resource problem, once we fix it, because everything, even if you buy the best equipment, everything depends on the human resource.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about the airport, so that we do away with this misconception. People have said, okay, we have class 1 approvals to fly to US, to fly to whatever.
Category 1.
And then this man is saying the airport has been abandoned. The good news is that the government, the previous administration, concentrated on those areas that allow us to continue flying to those destinations. The security processes and protocols, including the equipment, are very good. We just need to continue maintaining them. Our airport is one of the safest because of the collaboration we have with the security department in terms of protection of the airport. Of course, we have had incidences here of drugs, of once in a while, it is sent to other countries. But just like any other airport in the world, you have those challenges. But that part of our airport is excellent. And you must give credit to previous administration for focusing on that. In fact, we want to improve on the scanners at the entrance so that we make sure that it works well. The last thing, some people have misconstrued my argument that there was a sabotage and applied it to KPLC. CS Davis Chirchir, and I speak here out of collective response. I'm not the kind of a cabinet secretary who runs away or blames a colleague or another department. CS Davis Chirchir, both at the cabinet and at the press conference, explained to us why we are in the situation we are in. Because in 2013, again, this is a problem that came with our success. In 2013, the government agreed that we want to change the ways of connecting people to power. We increased the power connectivity from 2 million people to 9 million in the country without improving on the transmission, the infrastructure transmission. Pro-generation is doing well. Power, KPLC is doing well. In fact, I wonder why KPLC took the burden this time. Because the problem failed at the transmission level. Yes, exactly. We never put money in the transmission. We've not put money. In fact, it's the only area that we don't have PPP contracts. Davis Chirchir himself, having been a cabinet secretary in the previous administration, had signed a contract for this Bomet-Narok line that you had him talking about. And for some reason, after he exited, we just sat there, we forgot about it until the facility ended. And thankfully, he has pushed for another facility that now, yesterday, he briefed the cabinet, and the president has also briefed the nation that we have now procured a resource that is going to upgrade the grid, the line. And I'm glad also that he has got the ability to have the PPPs in the Ketraco line. So people are asking us, why is it in this administration that we have blackouts and we didn't have many blackouts before? It's because the transmission infrastructure is not there, the generation is higher, the transmission is low, and the consumption is high. So you have to invest in this middle one of the transmission to make sure that you solve the problem. So generally as a government...
Wait, you're saying we have blackouts because there is higher consumption now?
There is higher connectivity. There's higher connectivity, lesser transmission. So we need now to invest more on the transmission to make sure that we deal with this issue of power blackouts.
But what has happened in the last 6 months that has changed?
Well,
why didn't we have 4 blackouts last year?
Well, you have the explanation given by CSGT that more power has been loaded to the grid. Yeah, and so there's more power that was on board in the last 1 year to the grid, and therefore the grid must be able to have the capacity to support that power, evacuation of that power.
I want to ask you, Waziri, as you give explanations on all this.
And I have no problem, by the way, Eric, the way people have decided that I carry the entire problem of power blackout because of JKI, the entire thing. That is the reason why there is something called collective responsibility. If Kipchumba doesn't carry, the government can also still carry anyway. And we must give an explanation.
Let me ask you. For example, this explanation that you were given. Installation. It was because we didn't have the new generator. Now we are installing the new generator. No. It's because synchronization. Synchronization is very complex. You may not be an engineer, but surely you've dealt with generators.
Absolutely.
You've worked in places that have generators. Correct. You live in a place that has a standby generator.
Including the same airport. Some parts of that airport. Right?
Do you believe this story when you're told, it's a very complex engineering, this synchronization? I mean, it's not that you're pulling. Do you believe it yourself? That it is so complex, it will take us months to actually figure out whether we have synchronized a generator?
The simple conclusion I came to, seeing what I saw, is that there was sabotage. And that's why I took a step to tell the DCI, the IG, to get the DCI to do his investigation. Meanwhile, we are also doing technical investigation that involves engineering and engineers. In fact, the Institute of Engineers have also offered to participate on a free auditing of their infrastructure at the airport. And we are going to use... The good thing is that, Eric, out of these systemic problems at the beginning of this administration, we have an opportunity to make a lasting change in what is going to happen at the airport. And I have told people, and I will continue saying this, I am confident that the systems and the administrative procedures we put in place in terms of hiring new people, in terms of investment, is going to make JKI one of the best airports.
I have to hop on that just a little bit.
It sounds to me, it sounds to me like you are throwing new balls in the air all the time. Right? So you appointed a task force to look at what's happening at the airport. That task force has not even given you an interim report. You're bringing in DCI to look at what's happening at the airport. Those ones are working. You're bringing in Kenyan engineers and other engineers to look at what's happening at the airport. Now you're even bringing the Institution of Engineers of Kenya and surely, Waziri.
No, Eric, you are mixing up issues. And I don't want the public to get confused.
It is the same.
I don't want the public to get confused.
Same airport.
In the yes.
Power goes off.
As I told you.
Power comes on.
As I told
you. Why do we need so many things?
We will stop at nothing until we bring the river to the coast. And particularly when the airport, as far as the airport is concerned, the task force that I established is looking at entire infrastructure of the 3 airports. And I'm now going to make sure that they do it for the remaining airstrips across the country to make sure that we have proper infrastructure in place. It's an audit of the infrastructure. Number 2, the task force I formed is not new. It's not people who are going to be paid salary and allowances who are from outside. It is chaired by Engineer Walter Ogola, who is the chair of the technical committee of the board in KA. The reason why we wanted to continue is because he had already started a good job and he was updating me. I needed them to get
further support from other departments of government, like as you said earlier, public works and other places. So we seconded those people to help them so that we do one clear audit. Remember, the reason why we put that task force was because of the leaking roof. Yeah, we realized that the infrastructure, and as I told you, the task force has established that we need to work on our drainage here. The task force has also recommended already that we need to urgently procure a contractor to save the airport in Mombasa, which is it's caving in with some erosion happening at one side of the in one side of the airport. All these reports have been put in place so that we sort out problems that have sat with us for many years, so that we don't become reactionary. I didn't want it. The reason why we put the task force in place is that we have a roadmap of what we are going to do, what we are going to do in 2 years, in 3 years, in 10 years, whatever period of time in terms of the infrastructure. And as I told you, one of the proposals they are making is that we must have a proper working maintenance policy that includes who does what is done at what period, what is being outsourced, what's done internally. So that task force does its job. The question of DCI is just basically to establish that the processes we are putting in place are not being sabotaged. I remember that we are still working on getting our security for the airport itself, for internally being sorted. But we also want to make sure that we get, remember the police are still part of the management of the airport. We have a unit that deals with that process. Those ones provide security in the airport. But when it comes to the investigation, and they give us information that can lead to investigation. So the investigation that is going to happen is just to clear that we are not having acts of sabotage in that line. And if it may be positive, it may be that there is no act of sabotage. The engineers who are coming to place it will also still support the investigation process by the DCI, because these are technical people who can give information. What is the capacity of the generator? Is it the real, when tested, is it the real capacity of the generator that was procured? What was the process of synchronization? Who are the people who are doing the synchronization and so forth? So we just need to stop at nothing, Eric. Yeah, we need to stop at nothing until we make sure that our airport is back on course. And I want to
bring very many hands to turn the stone. Final question.
And I say this.
We got it. Let's get
the final thing. I mean, just looking at maintenance here as a big. I know you mentioned it, talking about a task force that you're bringing in next week, essentially, who will then make sure that the maintenance agenda is kept up to scratch, because it does seem as though that's a problem. And really, it shouldn't be you coming down to the airports every minute that something has gone wrong.
Absolutely.
But then where is the assurance that really people will be sure that if the lights go off, that an organization as critical as the airport then remains untouched?
First of all,
so we still have to ask you that question.
First of all, for the confidence of everybody, we are not bringing in any other task force. We are completing next week the process of getting the general manager in charge of engineering. And I've told the board they must go out of their way to get the most qualified person to take up that responsibility. Thereafter, the board itself and the management will put in place a maintenance policy that will make sure that we maintain not just JKIA, but the entire country. The advertised positions of about 150 to 200 staff that we advertised recently, including those who are dealing with birds, which has become a menace for our aeroplanes at the airport and so forth, are going to be in place either between now and January. And all these positions will be filled to have human capacity to do the job. If these are things that 7 years people have been acting, there is somebody who's acted for 10 years. There is one who had acted since President Kibaki was in office. He told me the first time he acted on and off. At that time, it was the person in charge of finance. All those positions now, we are filling them so that we have the human resource that is going to do the job. Lastly, I want to say that a cabinet secretary is not supposed to definitely deal with this question of a generator here and so forth. But the impact of that generator failure is huge. It's huge. And therefore, you cannot sit in your office and say, let me do nothing about it and just get reports. I decided that I was going to dirty my hands, notwithstanding the misunderstanding out there from the public. What I want is results. And Eric, I want to assure you, the systems we put in place. People say, I promised the country that it will not happen again.
You did. Yeah.
But you must give me credit to say, I did say so, but you must give credit to the fact that I reduced the madness from
2 hours, we are dealing it to 20 or 30 minutes. Now, from there, no, honestly, I failed to get to zero the way I wanted, according to my expectation. And no, Eric, please. And we underestimated the depth of the problem in terms of both human resource and appreciation of the challenges that we had in that department. But having walked down to that level, I can now comfortably say that learning from the problems that we have seen today, we should be able to move this to zero, that we are not going to have the same problem happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waziri, we are closing the year on this high. We open the year again on a high. Can you promise that you'll come back?
Be here?
Yes.
At the beginning of the year.
In terms of
in January.
Yes.
And this time, talk about the SGR. And
yes.
the
Yes. First of all, before I close, just give me 1 minute. You know, I preside over a ministry that has achieved a lot over this 1 year. And I hope that we will have, even if it is not through this medium, as a ministry, we'll be able to release this information to the public. We've achieved a lot when it comes to the railway progress in terms of transportation of goods, unlocking of business between us and Uganda. I went to Malaba with the minister from Uganda. We made sure that there was seamless movement of wagons from Uganda to this other side. We are building about 35 commuter stations in Nairobi to improve transport, to move people in the city from the current 12,000 per day. We want to target 132,000 people per day. Tomorrow we are launching a new line from Riruta or somewhere Lenana there, all the way to Ngong, and eventually we will move people from Ngong to Kiserian. We want to Kiserian to also Rongai. We want to provide in that circuit a transport system of commuter rail in the city that will make sure that movement of people is done. We are connecting XGR in Mombasa from the SGR itself to the town itself. We are in the process of getting a new what we call SGR conversations about extension from Naivasha to Malaba. In this airport conversation, let's not lose sight of the fact that we have opened new lines to Migori, to Homa Bay, to Kakamega in this 1 year, that I have facilitated movement of new airlines to Mombasa, new airlines to Nairobi. We have passed aviation policy. We have achieved a lot, even in the transport NTSA sector. We have reduced the number of accidents this year, and I'll be making that announcement next week. We have also dealt with the questions of number plates and driving licenses to make it more seamless. We've migrated our data now to an e-citizen, and we are trying to reform that side of the NTSA side. We have installed speed cameras on a pilot project, both by NTSA you've seen in Southern Bypass and the other side of Thika Road. We have installed also in Kinungi and in James Kishuru, Wayaki Way. We are testing it, and eventually in this coming year, I hope we roll out speed cameras across the country. We have done so much,
in
this ministry beyond a generator.
Beyond the generator.
And yet people, Eric, and I just want to say this, people want to reduce all this effort that we've done in financing, in all this kind of thing, to the minister only failed in a generator. Granted, this has been a challenge we dealt with. And I tell you, come next January when you call me, we will have advertised a construction of a new airport terminal at JKI. And in another 3 years, those who are saying now crucify him, in the next 3 years will be saying Murkomen Osana.
Kipchumba Murkomen. Cabinet Secretary for Road and Transport, thank you very much for joining us. You've hidden your watch today. We were not able to see the watch.
My watch is a simple watch.
It's a simple one.
In fact, yours is more expensive. I don't know where this
so today he has come with the cheaper watch.
I have no expensive watch.
Thank you, Waziri. Waziri Kipchumba Murkomen has been our guest. Thank you very much.